Hi and welcome to the channel. A couple of people have asked if I can do a guide on how to set up and get the plane to follow the autopilot on the Airbus A320 on the PlayStation 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right from scratch using SimBrief as a planning tool, and then we're going to go onto the flight deck and get the plan uploaded into the aircraft and then show how to get the autopilot to follow the plan. So first thing is definitely get SimBrief. If you haven't already got SimBrief to do your flight planning, you really need to get it, especially when it comes to planning for the Airbus A320. It's not so bad for the 737. You can use Microsoft Flight Planner for that, or the EFB on the actual flight sim itself. But I find that plans work a lot better in the Airbus when you're using SimBrief. So it's a free app. You download it, set up your own account, make sure you've got your own account set up and your own pilot ID, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then go to, if you're not already, go to the dashboard. You've got a screen a bit like this. So we're going to select top right, select create new flight. And all I need to do really, if I'm just doing the basics, is fill in the boxes that are outlined in red. So at the top, I've got depart here. So departing from, I'm going to go from East Midlands. So here you can either type in the code of the airport if you know it, or you can just type the actual location. So for example, if I type in East Midlands, it will start to come up with suggestions. There we go. Select that. And I'm going to go to Manchester. So I'll just type in the code EGCC, which will give me Manchester. And then next red box down is the aircraft. And I'm going to scroll down. Now, bear in mind, this is also used for the PC, so there's hundreds of aircraft that you won't see on the PS5 here. The one I want here is in the middle there, the A20N, which is the A320-200 Neo. Select that. And then on the right of that, the actual particular model that we're using, the actual simulated model that is. And it's the second one down, Builds A320 Neo V2. That's the one you want for the PS5. You have to get the right one, otherwise it's not going to upload into the aircraft. Most of the other boxes we can just leave. If you scroll down here, you can change some of these if you want to. For example, the departing runway, arrival runway, and so on. But we'll come right down here. Now this is where we can select our actual route. So the app will suggest several different routes between East Midlands and Manchester that we can pick. I'm going to pick the bottom one here. So that's highlighted in blue. You can see above the suggested routes, we've got the distance, 61 nautical miles. If I scroll a bit further down, you can see a little map of what the route looks like. So you can have a look at that first, see if it's the route that you want to do. And then on the top left, it says generate. I'm just going to select generate and wait a minute. Okay, and that's generated my flight plan. It's a really short flight plan. You can see in that second line down, it says air time is 22 minutes, so really short. Cruising altitude of 10,000 feet, so not got a lot of time to get up in the air. That's absolutely fine. And then you've got the route details there. It gives you all the waypoints and airways within there. It's also got the SID and star in there, and I'll talk about that when we get onto the actual aircraft. Some of you probably already know about that, so if you do, then that's fine, but I know one or two people don't, they're not familiar with SIDs and stars, so we'll just briefly cover that. Okay, so it should hopefully be really useful. And that's essentially it. What you have to do, though, as I said before, so make sure you've set up your own account. I'm going to go to the menu here on the top left, and the bottom option is account settings. And then you can see it says your SimBrief data. You really need to know your pilot ID. So that is the ID that we're going to make sure is entered into the EFB on the actual aircraft so that it will pull through the plan that we've just done. So that's it for the app, and let's go into the aircraft. Here we are then on the flight deck of the A320. Obviously it's a cold dark start, so we're going to get everything set up and started up. Not going to dwell too much on the actual setup because this is all about the autopilot and just getting the aircraft to follow the autopilot. So let's just go over here to get all the basics sorted out fairly quickly, and I'm going to assume that you already know all of these things. Another thing whilst I'm doing this is just worth mentioning that it's really worth getting a mouse and keyboard if you're using the PS5. It's so much easier to do, well, all of these things really, with your mouse than it is with the controller. It's made a massive difference. So get a wireless one with the USB that you just plug into the PS5, and it works perfectly with the controller at the same time. Definitely worth doing. I'll stick all the fuel pumps on now. I always forget about those. In the interest of saving time, I'm going to stick the APU on now as well. Okay. Right, so I'm going to go over to the EFB, Shift and 5, I think. There we go. Okay, so this is what I'm going to use now to upload the flight plan that we've just done on SimBrief. So if I go to options, when you first use this, you've got to make sure that your pilot ID is entered here at the top. Okay, so that's obviously my pilot ID. If I click on that, actually what you need to do is you need to actually use the keyboard within the EFB itself, okay, otherwise it won't work. So if you come down here, on-screen keyboard, that's what you need to enable, okay. And we're going to use the actual on-screen keyboard here to enter your pilot ID. If you do it through the PS5 keyboard that comes up, it won't actually work, and it took me a long time to work that out. So yeah, make sure that the on-screen keyboard is enabled. Okay. Right. So once you've uploaded your SimBrief pilot ID, also entered that, go back to your dashboard here, and then this top right icon here, SimBrief. That, when I click that, that's going to upload the latest plan that I've just done on the SimBrief app. Okay, so whatever plan I've just done most recently, it's going to upload that into here. Plan loaded, so I've got my departure from East Midlands to my arrival in Manchester there. So dead easy. I've also got my weather information, the QNH down here as well. It's going to be standard stuff because I've not got live weather on, so there's going to be no messing around with the QNH and so on this flight. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to payload, and again I've got the SimBrief icon here. I'm going to upload all the information on that flight plan in terms of the weights, the fuel and so on, just by clicking on that. Then I'm going to click apply load. If you want to, you can have it realistic, but it can take up to 40 minutes, so I'm going to do it instantly. For some reason it always brings down the shade as well as soon as you do that on the window here, but I can get rid of that in a minute. And then the live gross weight here updates itself, so I've got 61945 kilograms, so about 61 tons, or just under 62 tons. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for the payload page. Then I'm going to go to the takeoff page here, and I'm going to enter, I need to remember that, so it's 6194, oh, it's gone down, 61944, maybe because I'm burning a bit with the APU. 61944, go to takeoff here, I'm going to enter 61944. This one you don't need the FB keyboard, you can just enter using the PlayStation keyboard. Then runway 9, so is that the right runway? Because it's often not the right runway. I'm going to go back on my phone and have a look at the plan. It's much easier when you've got your phone in front of you where you've been using the app. Just going to go back to the flight plan, just check the details. I'm going to see what runway I'm on. So it's runway 27, so I'm going to click on here and change that to runway 27, and then I'm going to click sync the wind information, altimeter and so on. Then when that's in, I'm going to click calculate, and then you'll see these move here, and it gives me my takeoff speed. So I've got my V1, VR, V2 speeds entered in there. Then the last thing I do on this page, send to FMGS. So that's basically the MCDU. Okay, that's pretty much all I need to do now with that. I'm just doing the basics. That's all I need to do. So I'll come away from that. Now we're going to go down to the MCDU, and this is really crucial, this piece of kit. So when I first started doing the flights, I wasn't using this, but you absolutely need to use this when you're doing the flight plans on the on any of the airliners. So first thing I'm going to select is the top menu, the top option here, FMGC. Just wait a second. I'm going to clear. There's a clear button top bottom left, so it clears out any of the cautions at the bottom there. They're just standard things that come up. First page I'm going to go to is this one here, Init, and this is where I'm going to see initialization page. I'm going to init request. I'm going to click on this, and when I click on this, it's going to draw the flight plan over from the EFB into the MCDU. So it automatically puts in East Midlands to Manchester there. Okay, then I'm going to go to this one, F plan, so that's the flight plan page. Click on that, and I've got all of my waypoints and airways entered automatically. To go through them, click, if you go down the pages, I click the up arrow, so it's a bit counterintuitive. I'm going to go through like this, and that's the end of the plan. Then in blue I've got my alternative, which I think is Liverpool by the looks of it. Right, so that's entered in there, but what it hasn't entered are the details for the departure and arrival. Just puts the basics in. So we need to enter the departure and arrival details separately. So this is where you want to have your phone in front of you with your sim brief plan open, so you can have a look at these details as we do them. So for my departure, I'm going to click on the very first waypoint, which is obviously, well, it's the first position, which is East Midlands Airport. Then I'm going to click on departure, and then I know that it's runway 27, so I select that using the keys obviously next to the options. And then I've got options of SIDs, and SID, so if you've not used these, this stands for Standard Instrument Departure. Basically what it is, it's a flight path that you follow when departing the vicinity of the airport, and which SID you have depends on the particular route that you're going to be following. So you would hope that the SID that we have is going to put us on a route towards Manchester. So the one that I've got on my plan is TNT2N. You see there's not many options here. Some airports have lots of different SIDs, so I'm going to select that one. There's no transition, so that's from the actual SID onto the main route. If there was, there'd be some options in here. But anyway, I've selected that, and then I'll just click insert. Okay, so you can see that there's a few more waypoints here because it's inserted the SID. Now what we have to do is the same, but for the arrival, and that's called a STAR, so standard terminal arrival. So we go for Manchester, select the last location there, arrival, and looking at my flight plan again on my phone, 23R is what I'm looking for. It's going to be an ILS, so an instrument landing system approach. 23R, there we go. And then I'm looking for, is it there, C23LF? Maybe it's not. Maybe I don't have a, no, I don't think. We've not got a star for this. Okay, so it's a direct approach, I haven't got a star. So I'm going to select none. Insert that. Okay, then I'm going to just go through these waypoints using this up arrow. I'm just going to go through them all, and I'm making sure there's nothing in there that says flight plan discontinuity, because we need to resolve that if there is. It's really easy to resolve though, but there's not, probably because it's such a small flight plan. Right, so that's entered. Now what I need to do is make sure the weights are in here. So I'm going to go back to the init page. I'm going to go to page 2 of the init page, and then I need zero fuel weight and 0 fuel weight center of gravity, and this is just going to be automatic again, pulled over from my plan that I've created on SimBrief. So click on the icon there, and then instead of clicking on block, I'm just going to click fuel planning and just wait a moment. Block confirm. There you go. So next thing I'm going to do, go to performance, and because we've already put in on the EFB, we've got the EFB to calculate the takeoff speeds, and we sent it over to this. These are all ready to be input here. So if I click next to each box, oops, saying not allowed. Why was I saying that? Oh, sorry, yeah, I'm thinking of the 737. On here, we just go down to the bottom right, confirm takeoff data, and it'll enter those. So that's it. So, and when it comes to taking off, V1 and so on will be marked on the PFD. I'm going to go back to, so I've got my legs all out in front of me, and waypoints and so on. Right, that's it for that. Now I can see that the plan is on here, this green line there on the ND. So the next thing I'm going to do is set up all my different modes, and the first thing I'm going to do here is turn on the flight directors. So the flight directors need to be turned on in order for the plane to follow the autopilot. So basically you turn the flight director on, the flight director knows what altitude you should be at, what pitch you should be at, the route that you should be following, and the autopilot follows the flight director. So we're going to turn this FD on here, and also turn the other one on in here. Best practice to have both of them on. And then I've got my different settings with these dials here. So obviously I've got speed. Now on any of these on an Airbus, if there's the dot instead of an actual figure, or number I should say, if there's a dot, it means it's going to be in a managed mode. That means the aircraft is going to manage it itself when I put autopilot on. So speed is going to be managed by the aircraft, okay, according to the plan that I've got in the MCDU down here. The heading is going to be following the route that we've put into the MCDU, because there's a dot there. And altitude, when I start increasing this up to the 10,000 feet cruising altitude that we're going to be getting to, you'll see the dot appear, and that means it's ready to be for managed mode to be activated as soon as I put autopilot on. So I'm going to start, there we go. You see the dot next to the number on the right hand side, that means it's going to be a managed mode. Okay, and obviously these are the autopilot buttons here that I'm going to use once we've taken off, and it's going to start following this plan that I've put in. So those are the basics really in setting up the autopilot. What I am going to do is I'm just going to actually first I'm going to open up the FB. So what you do need to do actually on the A320, if you've used SimBrief, I'm going to send the plan to air traffic control, so that when we push back and we're taxiing, air traffic control gives me instructions to taxi to the correct runway. So if I go to this option here, I'm going to request from avionics, so this will pull it from the computer on the aircraft. So now I'm just going to change the flight level. It always gets flight level wrong, so it's 10,000 feet, so flight level 100. And it is runway 27, so that's fine. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to send that to ATC, not avionics, because otherwise that'll just overwrite everything that we've just done. All I want is for this to be sent to air traffic control, just so that they direct me in the correct way. Well, usually, I don't forget bits and bobs wrong, but that's fine. Okay, so where are we at? APU has been on for absolutely ages now, so we've probably burnt half of our fuel anyway. It's certainly available, so we can get rid of the ground power. Let's remove the actually we didn't remove the chocks either, did we? So better do that. Let's quickly do that. And the engine covers. Okay, right. And we've got rid of the GPU, so that's fine. Go back into the dashboard. There we go. Right. Fine. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to look at getting the engines fired up, and I'm going to request, actually I'm not even going to request pushback. I can make that. It's a nice turning circle, I can definitely make that, so I'm not even going to bother. Right. Let's get ignition.
East Midlands ground. Airbus Golf, Echo November, Echo IFR to Manchester. Ready to copy.
Airbus Golf, Echo November, Echo is cleared to Manchester Airport via the Tango November Tango 2 November departure, runway 27. Climb via SID maintain 6000. Expect 10,010 minutes after departure. Departure frequency is 118.775. Squawk 6625.
Cleared to Manchester via the Tango November Tango 2 November departure, runway 27. Climb via SID maintain 6000. Expect 10,010 minutes after departure. Departure frequency is 118.775. Squawk 6625. Airbus Golf, Echo November Echo.
Airbus Echo November Echo. Read back correct. Contact ground on 121.905. Good day.
East Midlands ground. Airbus Golf, Echo November Echo with Mike. Ready to taxi. IFR.
Airbus Golf Echo November Echo. Taxi to and hold short of runway 27. Contact tower on 124.005 when ready.
Taxi to and hold short runway 27. Airbus Echo November Echo. East Midlands Tower, Airbus Golf Echo November Echo at runway 27 ready for departure. IFR to Manchester.
Airbus Golf Echo November Echo, QNH 101 cleared for takeoff runway 27.
Clear for takeoff runway 27. Airbus Golf Echo November Echo.
Okay, cleared to take off, and once I've taken off, I'll be engaging autopilot, and we can see how it follows the flight plan. Gear up, flaps up. I could fly manually for a bit if I want. I can follow the flight directors here on the PFD. You can see the green lines, the horizontal, vertical line I can follow, and I'm following the path here. Or I can now just activate the, so engage the autopilot. I'm going to reduce throttle to climb, there we go, and then pop autopilot on, and then here we are. I'm following, I'm not doing anything here, it's following the green line on the ND here.
Did you copy?
Decimal 775 for Airbus Echo November Echo. Manchester Center Airbus Golf Echo November Echo is at 2,700 climbing 6,000. Airbus Golf Echo November Echo, Manchester Center QNH 101 radar contact, continue to TNT 07.
So that's the basics really, and how to follow, so how to get the Airbus to follow the autopilot. And essentially I could keep the autopilot on now all the way through the climb, cruise, descent, and I usually disengage it at least 1,000 feet.
10,000 Airbus Echo November Echo.
At least 1,000 feet before landing. So looking at the MCDU here, you can see you've got a few interesting points. We've got TC, which stands for top of climb. So this is when I'm expected to get to the top of climb. I'm obviously making my way through each of these airways and waypoints as I go. And then it'll be TD a bit further down here, which is top of descent. So that's when I'm going to start to descend. Now, one thing to bear in mind with the Airbus is it won't descend automatically unless I tell it to, even with autopilot on and with managed modes on. So what I need to do is I need to have a look at my charts for Manchester to see what altitude I need. In this case, I'm going to look to see what altitude I need to intercept the glide slope, although the MCDU should have that down here anyway. So if I scroll down my waypoints on here, so you can see 3,500 is the, it looks like 3,500 is going to be the altitude to intercept the glide slope.
Airbus Echo November Echo, please expedite your climb.
And I can double check that anyway by referring to the ILS chart for Manchester runway. So I'm going to have a look at that. This is quite common that air traffic control will ask me to expedite a climb, but I'm at a 6,000 feet altitude constraint, so I can't. But this happens all the time, so I just ignore ATC. That's absolutely fine. Well, it is in the app anyway, in the sim. Okay, I'm going to start my climb now to 10,000 feet. But I'm not actually doing that. Autopilot's doing that because everything's programmed incorrectly. Obviously, I've got auto throttle as well. You can see this blue line here, that's basically indicating where I'm going to level out. So that's going to be the top of climb, so that's going to be where I reach flight level 100. I can zoom out on the flight plan a little bit as well in miles, so if I zoom out a bit further I can see that this downwards arrow here, that represents where I'm going to begin my descent towards Manchester. So we can see roughly how far away that is and monitor that, because we need to make sure we are descending at that point at the latest. Right, so now we're going to level out and cruise. So once I'm cruising, I can actually, if I want to, I can set the altitude that I want to descend to once we reach the top of descent. And I've looked at my charts and it is 3,500 feet that I need for runway 23R at Manchester. So I can just stick that in now by dialing this down here. So on the Airbus, it goes down in intervals of 1,000 feet unless you select this here, click on there to move to 100, so I can go up to 3,500. And again, it's much easier using a mouse on all these dials than it is using your controller. It's so much easier. Basically what I'm going to do when I reach this arrow, the top of the descent, which looks like it's in about 6 miles time, 6 nautical miles, when I hit that, I am going to right click on this knob here with the mouse. I'm going to right click, and that will begin a managed descent down towards 3,500 feet. But we still need to monitor the descent, make sure that we are where the flight directors want us to be in terms of the altitude and when, so that we're on track. So if we find out that we're above where we need to be, we need to intervene, perhaps by applying speed brake, in some circumstances by deploying flaps as well. So we're just about to approach top of descent. Obviously this is a really short flight. I mean, that's an incredibly short cruise. Usually it will be might be a few hours, but that was it's about 2 minutes. So anytime now really I can right click on this and I'm going to begin the descent. And you can see on the PFD we're in descent mode. This green arm here is representing the rate of descent, so at 700 feet per minute, 800 feet per minute. And I'm looking at the green dot, and I really want to keep that in the center here. So this basically shows our profile. It shows that we're on the correct profile to hit 3,500 feet when we want to hit 3,500 feet. Again, I'm just ignoring ATC.
Climb and maintain 10,000. Airbus Echo, November Echo.
Looks like we've got a very interesting approach into Manchester here. This does happen sometimes. You can edit. You can alter the approaches by editing the waypoints in the MCDU, but we're not going to. We're just going to follow it exactly as it is for this one. Also, if you look at the MCDU, you can see some useful information down here. For example, these distance here, 32 nautical miles. That's distance to the runway, so we're not too far out. It's told me as well automatically to check destination data. So if I go to performance, I'm going to go to the approach phase. I'm going to enter details in here. Q&H is staying the same. I'm going to do a config 3 landing because I much prefer that. I'm checking the decision height is 200 feet. If I want to get weather, I can go on the EFB. I can go to the runway and the weather, 5 kilometers to 40, so to temperature 20. So yeah, so my approach speed at 139, landing speed 134. Flaps 3, because I'm going to do flaps 3, I need to press landing flaps 3, so it won't tell me in the checklist that I need full flaps. I've already told it I don't want full flaps. You can see Manchester there. We're not approaching just yet. We're going to do this loop-the-loop. We're now at 6,000. We're going to round this loop here whilst descending. Landing lights I forgot to turn off, so we'll leave those on. sure what's going on here. It's a bit of a bug, I think.
Airbus Echo November Echo. Please expedite your climb 10,000. Airbus Echo November Echo. Maintain present altitude. Expect vectors localizer runway 2 tree right approach.
Maintain present altitude. Expect vectors localizer runway 2 tree right approach. Airbus Echo November Echo.
Airbus Echo November Echo. Maintain present heading and altitude. Contact Manchester Tower on 11.9.405.
Maintain present heading and altitude. Tower on 11.9.405 Airbus Echo November Echo. Manchester Tower, Airbus Golf Echo November Echo.
They're going to let me the last turn to final approach. Slightly below the glide slope, which is good. I should intercept that fairly soon.
Manchester Tower, QNH 101 tree. Cleared localizer runway 2 tree right approach.
Cleared localizer runway 2 tree right approach. Airbus Echo November Echo.
Some flaps out here. Yeah, we've got the glide slope. May as well just discount the autopilot now at 2,000 feet.
Airbus Echo November Echo. Wind calm. Cleared to land runway 2 tree right.
Clear to land runway 2 tree right. Airbus Echo November Echo.
1000. Retard.
Okay, and that's it basically. So hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any other questions. Thanks for watching.